Hi everyone, and welcome back to another review of ours. This time it's about something that's actually much easier to get into frame. It's a dagger, or more specifically it's the historical fencing armory Dagger. As per the usual formula, I'll do my talk a bit first, and then I'll give you a picture with the stats that I mentioned, some more pictures to put the piece into context, and then at the end you'll have some sparring footage should you see the whole piece moving. One thing you'll have to know regarding the sparring footage though is that I am not a rapier fencer, at least not in the same way that I'm a saber or langes messer fencer. It's nothing that I really do in earnest, it's nothing that my club really does, it's something that I do because I find it fun and relaxing, and I like rapiers. Which means that what you'll see in the sparring footage is not something like rapier and dagger against rapier and dagger, but rather it's rapier and dagger against backsword and targe, or backsword and dagger against backsword and targe. Which also is something that we actually don't really do on the regular in our club. So what you'll see in the sparring footage is just me and Ulrich having a bit of fun, basically, and just relaxing, playing around a bit. But still, it will make for a nice demonstration of what this piece can do, I think. You'll find the usual timestamps in the description of the video should you want to hop around a bit. So, as for the piece, Historical Fencing Armory is a producer that in their portfolio focuses on modern equipment for HEMA. So this is, as you can immediately see, not a reproduction of anything, but rather it's purpose-built for the sport, modern equipment, modern materials and everything, which I found actually quite interesting, so I wanted to have a look at it. As far as the stats go, this one weighs in at about 540 grams. It's 59.5-ish centimeters long, or 60 centimeters depending on how you measure, roundabout. Has a POB that is pretty much right at the cross. Of the whole thing, 45 centimeters of the blade. And then you have roundabout centimeter of the cross, then you have 9.5-ish centimeters of the grip, 4 centimeters of pommel. Grip is actually nice, it's long enough even if you wear gloves, or want to do a bit more of a thumb kind of grip, but it's not overly ridiculously long. It's a nice balance. The cross itself is 27 centimeters long, and the ring to the side protrudes about 3-ish centimeters. As far as taper goes, blade starts in the fort at 2 centimeters and then goes down to 1.2-ish centimeters to the point. Distal taper is quite nice, good strong fort, 6 millimeters, and then it narrows down to about 2 millimeters until we come to the point, which is slightly thickened at 4 millimeters, roundabout. What you might not be able to see on the video is that we also have a change in cross section. So we have a diamond cross section about here, and then it's more of a lentil shape, which means that as far as flexibility goes, this one actually strikes a nice balance. It's not wobbly, but it has some flex for safety, and still it still maintains a good presence in the fort, which is nice for control, binding and parrying. Generally, I have to say that I think this piece strikes a nice balance, because in my personal experience at least, flexibility in daggers is kind of a difficult thing to get right. Most daggers, and I have a few, in my experience fall into one of two categories. Either they are really quite stiff for nice control in the bind or technical training, wrestling, or they are more on the flexible side for being safe in the thrust, really. It's really hard to get a piece that can do both. For contrast, I have another parrying dagger by Alchem from the US. And this one is really flexible, which if you want to get up close and stab is really nice, because you can do so resting comfortably in the knowledge that your partner will be relatively safe, or at least as safe as this can be, really. The problem though is, until you get there, this piece can be a bit of an annoyance, because should you not parry perfectly with the edge, this one is actually flexible enough that the cut can still get to you. Or when you start binding the blade of your opponent, you know, for control, it might be that he just moves away and you lose feel of it. Not particularly because of any fault of your own, but rather because just, you know, the blade is just that flexible. In that regard, I found that the Dagger actually strikes a nice balance. As I said, good presence in the fort. I could parry, control, bind very reliably. Generally, this is a very sturdy feeling piece. But I also felt that when I closed in and it came down to stabbing, that I could do so while still being relatively safe. And there was actually one situation that you'll also see after the talky bit, where I was actually quite happy that it was as flexible as it is then. You might not be able to see it as well on camera, but this dagger isn't actually quite straight anymore, because we had a situation where after I thrust it actually took a permanent bend. You can see me straightening it out with the foot then, because it kind of made contact at the chest area and then just crept up, and simply because of the mass of us two fencing, it was enough force behind the thrust in the end to give this one a bend, which personally I think is fine, because I'd rather have this one take a bend and a permanent set than my partner having permanent damage. Still, I would recommend maybe putting a tip on this, because this is still really quite small and thin and can get under and between layers of your protection. The good news is that should it take a bend and should you want to switch it after a while, because of course this is made to be used and replaced at some point, this is a screw tongue construction and they do sell replacement blades. The Dagger comes in at about 90 euros. Of course, there's, if you're in the EU or some other place, then there's also the postage and tax. But yeah, 90 euros in the store, and the replacement blade is 45-ish. So also a good source if you should be looking for just an interesting blade really with nice dimensions. But yeah, should it be necessary, you can just really take that and replace it then. So as far as I'm concerned, I really quite like it, because it has, as I said, good presence in the parry and the bind. At the same time, it manages to be flexible enough so that I still feel comfortable enough actually closing in and thrusting. It's still safe in that regard, and you know, should it be necessary, you can always just switch it out. So if you're looking for a dagger for your play, historical fencing armory might really be worth having a look. I certainly quite like it. Cheers.
Jedes Mal geht den Dolch in die Fresse. Oha, guck dir das an. Alter. Ja, fürs Review, ne?
Mein Lieber, liegen als brechen.
Schön. Da habe ich selber gedacht, da habe ich mich selber blockiert. Aber ich selber den Weg sehe. Ja. Ich muss da nach vorne anders gehen. Knapp. Ich habe auch gerade aufs Tag. Ja, aber du hast mit deinem Schwarzer am Kopf, mit dem Dolch, wärst schön mittig in meinem Oberschenkel gegrinst. ja unten drauf eingefallen, das macht er jetzt nicht mehr.
Was soll ich sagen? Du hast recht.
Aber da hast du mich ganz schön mit dem Dolch gebunden. Da ich kurz gedacht, oh shit.
Manchmal klappt das. Das Problem ist halt, du sollst jetzt weniger Raum für bessere Unfallärger. Und wenn der vorbei ist, dann ist er einfach vorbei. Welchen schönen Video.
Entschuldigung.
Vollkommen okay.
Deiner war auch ein solider. Der wäre drin gewesen.